I was in Japan working on the Sentinels when the Canon people wanted to see what we were doing for this movie, and somebody just showed them some rough cut of what it was, and they hated it. It wasn't even done yet. It wasn't even dubbed or anything. So they absolutely hated it. So they called me back from Japan, and I had to come up and make something up in a meeting with the Canon people. So I remember doing this, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever done. I came into this boardroom, and there were Yoram Globus and Menachem Golan sitting at this end of a table. Frank Agrama was on one side of the table in the front with me, and there was a couple of marketing people from Canon. And Frank said, "Okay, tell them the story, MACEK." And so I just went on for like 25 minutes, just jumping on the table, telling them how cool this was. There's going to be flying giant transformable robots and guys getting killed and people getting smashed, and there's going to be girls, and it's going to be outrageous, and it's going to be stuff like you've never seen before. And when I was done, Globus and Gallant stood up and said, "Now that's a Canon movie," and that's what came Robotech the movie. Personally, I don't think that it was a successful interpretation because of the mix of 35mm and 16mm print. So it just looked fun. I always knew that was going to be a problem. Science fiction wise, it's an interesting story. Better to be remembered in a novelization or a comic book, not as well remembered if you see it on video, because it'll always have a sore spot for people who say, well, that's Megazone 2-3 Part 1, which it is. And, you know, so my theory is better to keep it as a memory in novel form or a comic book as opposed to a movie. I also got to actually do original anime at the time. So we produced about 10 minutes worth of original anime for that too, which was kind of cool. Anyway, so sorry. I wish I could tell you more, but who knows?
I don't have anything to dispute what Carl says. If he doesn't like that movie, then that's pretty much it for it.
It's not that I don't like it. I don't think it's necessarily part of the Robotech universe.
Well, Canon had a great film career afterwards with movies like Over the Top and Superman 4.
The funny thing was that Robotech the movie opened the very same day that Aliens opened, Jim Cameron's Aliens.
Oh boy.
And I have a photograph of myself in Dallas standing out in front of a marquee, and it said Aliens, Robotech the movie on a big marquee, and I got my hands up going like, oh my God. And then what was fascinating was Canon also had another movie coming out at the same time called Pirates with Roman Polanski film with Walter Matthau as the star of it. And they thought that was going to be their big release. And Robotech, the movie, outperformed Pirates 10-1 and it was only playing in 35 theaters. Only in Dallas and Fort Worth, and Pirates played all around the country, and Robotech the movie did better at the box office. So they thought, man, what is this movie? And they just lost their interest in it because they were trying to market it for kids too. So it was just a weird period of time. I wish it would have been more successful, but you know, such is life.
Hey guys, my question is for Carl MACEK. And the question I have is, with the content that Robotech dealt with, as it started to come out and people were seeing it, did you get a lot of questions or concerns that, hey, you know, there's people dying, they're not ejecting out of their fighter jets, and you know, you have interracial kiss scenes and things like that? Was that something that was often a topic that you had to deal with?
In certain territories or markets, yes. Specifically in the South, the interracial problems were unfortunately an issue for some people. The death stuff they didn't really pay attention to because you didn't see somebody's head explode or something like that. So since they didn't see somebody physically blow up, they weren't really that concerned about it, but they were concerned about the interracial aspects of it.
Oh no!
Actually, wasn't it true that one city in Texas, one market, had refused to show Robotech because there was an interracial couple?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah. That was Dallas, Channel 44.
Unfortunately, the gentleman here has alerted us that we're nearly at time. We only have room for one more question.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
All right.
Oh, we'll do two. I'll make quick answers.
Okay. All right, we'll let you slide, and that's it. Okay.
We're almost to the end.
all right, I'll ask quick. So, Robotech was my favorite anime series of all time. It was the first show I ever watched, got me into anime. When I was a kid, I also watched another transforming robot show, which you can guess what it is. In fact, there was a transforming robot in that show that looked conspicuously
GoBots?
like Robotech. Yes, GoBots. No, but anyway, so with Transformers, when they came out with the live-action film, they turned these, rather elegant-looking, cool robots from the cartoon series and turned them into these, sort of crumpled tinfoil balls. I'm a little concerned that in the live-action Robotech, they're going to do the same thing because, in the old series, they had these awesome-looking Veritechs and the Valkyries. They all looked so great. They had this perfect form. They transformed great as the toys. Are you concerned that that's going to happen with the live-action film?
Well, I think a good example is Iron Man and Batman, The Dark Knight. They're both about ludicrously rich men who have nothing better to do than put on suits of armor and beat bad guys up, and the movies are completely different, telling a similar story structure, but they're very different through very different directors. And so I think, Robotech can exist, being its own animal, very different. It'll have its own identity, so we're not concerned about Transformers.
Okay.
Other than it helps the genre.
No, I just meant are you concerned that they're going to make the
Yeah.
Robotech look a little weird in the movie, with the new CG and everything?
My theory is that they're going to try to make it as cool as they possibly can, and I think that the cool factor is what's going to be the drive force, and if the spirit of the industry is such that they want to make it look cool, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to make it look silly.
Okay. Thanks.
Once the litigation is cleared, would you be interested in integrating Macross Frontier into the Robotech universe? And thanks for taking my question.
Oh, sorry about that. We were given the signal to stop. We gotta. Actually, we really don't know. Macross Frontier is a new product. I personally think that some of the animation in it looks great. We just don't know how it'll integrate into Robotech because that's a bridge we just have yet to cross.
Okay, thank you very much.